Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I remember back in the day when I would be running the poetry open mic, the Cafe Gallery, Gallery Cabaret, on Tuesday nights starting at 7. If there'd be nobody there, I'd have to be reading something from a book that was recently released from Scars Publications. And I remember some nights when I would be running the open mic and there'd be a presidential debate going on and I wouldn't be able to watch it because I was hosting a poetry open mic. And well, I haven't been running this poetry open mic since August of 2015, so I guess that means I get the honor of watching a couple of orangutans screaming at each other in a first presidential debate in quarantine times in 2020. Oh, that should be fun. One crazy person to the other, and oh, wow. That's something to treasure, I suppose. Which was why when I decided to break out a bottle of wine of Judka Riesling that my husband was working on his first wine in the North by Midwest division of Walking Seed Brewing. I said we should have that, but we should pull out some sort of America glassware, and I think he was using the champagne glass that of the U.S. flag that his parents gave us on our wedding day for it, which was cute. And so I've got that saved if I want to have that for the debate, because I don't have an open mic to host. But in light of the times when I would run an open mic and I would have to read to fill space until my late poets would show up for the open mic, because we had to be done by 9 o'clock because Ross Berman's music show was coming on afterward, I'd be reading things from a Scars Publications book. So I've been doing that and reinventing that idea, reviving it in 2020 for the 2020 book reading series from the Cafe Gallery. And I've been reading sections as of late from this Down in the Dirt collection book that is called Foundations. And it is a book that was an issue collection book from February to April of 2020. And it's got this really groovy cover on it with ruins in Rome, I believe. It's just, I don't know, I'm a silly bean. I thought it was cool. But I was going to read a section of it from for you guys. And what section should I pull off? This is Foundations. We will pull not the Aurora or going off grid sections, but the Formative sections, one of the last sections in the book, which had a really cool cover from Down in the Dirt from India, I believe, because, you know, you got to learn about religions and stuff in your formative years. So I will read to you a couple of poems from this book. I hope you enjoy them. This first one is called Xenon and PTSD to Fight That Spiral. Older generations may say things were so stellar in the past, and you may seem saddened when you hear the wistful way they talk. And though they fought their own wars, you turn on your TV to see terrorists fly airplanes into collapsing Twin Towers in New York. You see riots in the streets and gun shootings on the South Side. When you take your lunch break and you see on TV Notre Dame spire now up in smoke, and you realize that the bad is burning, but so is the good. Your anxiety, moodiness, depression from too many traumatic things, this anxiety, this positivity, and your negativity makes it a self-fulfilling prophecy. I know the world is tough, but the world can be good too. So stop searching to wallow in the impossibly bad. You could actually discover the good. Please, take that first step, and then see what you can do. That one was written because learning about periodic table poems back in the day, I found out in a later time that they're using Xenon as something to try to help people going through PTSD, which is a really cool thing, I thought. So I was all over that, you know, using precious elements like Xenon, why the hell not, right? Anyway, these, as I said, are from the Down in the Dirt issue collection book Foundations. And I'm going to share with you, I'm going to put this down here and share with you, let's get something going on about the Civil War. This poem is called Quartermaster General Burying Bodies, and it was written on the day of the beginning of the Civil War, and this is actually from the perspective of Montgomery C. Meigs. So, I'll do what I can for you guys, if you like it. This is Quartermaster General Burying Bodies. And I'll try to sound like Montgomery C. Meigs. This is from his perspective. And he's not a Bears fan, but I had to put it on because 3-0. Hello, that's pretty good. I don't think the Bears have had it that good for the past decade, which is a good thing. And if my Austin connections are like, wait, what, you and your Bears stuff, all I can say is this actual jersey was actually from Cedric Benson, which was only with the Bears for 2 years, but he was there for the Super Bowl year in '05. And I got it from a neighbor who was selling this shirt. So I bought this here in Austin because this guy went to UT, and everybody's very, very hyper crazy psychotic over college football, and he went to UT, and so they even had a Bears jersey for him. So I got this, so I'm representing, I guess, what I've bought here in Austin as well. Anywho, this poem, I'm going to start this again. Quartermaster General Burying Bodies. When I came to these United States back in 1837, I shadowed a man who later became my good friend, Robert E. Lee. I became close to him, this leader of men, and I really thought he was what a Christian man should be. So we remained friends until 1861, when war broke out, and Lee decided to desert us, the Union Army, and attempted to lead the Confederate Army. And all I could think was that this was a man that I looked up to. I modeled myself after him, and now he's the biggest traitor since Benedict Arnold? Yes, I looked up to him, but I don't admire a man who chooses to be in cahoots with rednecks who love slavery, so my only choice was to battle against this man. I've seen their home for years, with his wife Mary tending to the most elaborate rose garden, and I'm sure she fumed when Robert made her leave her precious roses because of the war. And eventually, I became the Quartermaster General of the Union Army. We crossed the Potomac, and we actually occupied Robert E. Lee's residence. We even made it our headquarters when Lee fought Ulysses S. Grant in their 40-day bloodbath massacre. 82,000 people were killed in 1 month. And I had to deal with all the incoming dead Union soldiers. Every soldier I had to bury made me more and more angry at Lee. But then my heart was broken when one of the dead soldiers that came to me was my son. My son. No father should bury their own child like this. And yes, what I'm about to say makes me sound like some quasi-madman, but I want to make sure that Robert E. Lee can never come back. And if he does, let him sleep among Union ghosts. So, where do we put the bodies of our fallen soldiers? Let's bury them right here on Lee's property. Bury our men around his house, around his porch, and let's make a big pit for our dead in Mary's dead rose garden. When we won the Civil War, Robert and his wife Mary came back to find that their precious home that they loved so much is now turned into a graveyard. I hear that after I died, Lee's land became the heart of Arlington National Cemetery as a fitting way to honor all of our soldiers. And to top it all off, Mary's treasured rose garden became the space for the tomb of the unknown soldier. How perfect. This land that I reclaimed from the leader of the South is now and forever will be the heartbeat of America. Holy cow. That's an intriguing piece. It's fun to see these history lessons that are in this section, and I've just flipped the pages to get to a poem that's called Quarrel over the Constitution. And it was written on the 13th of April, which is Thomas Jefferson Day, because it's actually Thomas Jefferson's birthday, April 13th. So this piece is called Quarrel over the Constitution. Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, both founding fathers of the United States, were good friends, but they never agreed on how the government should run. They quarreled over the Constitution. John thought it was a document that could bend and change to the needs of the time. But Thomas said, no way. This is the Constitution. It is there to actually be a structure that does not bend. But as I said, they were friends nonetheless until John Adams was president. And in May of 1800, President Adams made the robust declaration that it is illegal to say anything bad about the President of the United States, and the federal government will get you if you even think of committing this crime. At this point, Jefferson was enraged, thinking that there's this little thing called freedom of speech, and this is in direct violation of anything this country is supposed to stand for. So, when the next election came, Jefferson had to run against Adams to get him out of the presidency. So, the two of them said anything derogatory about the other to win. Apparently, because Jefferson would argue for individual rights, Adams would say things like, voting for Jefferson is voting for murder or incest because he thinks anyone could do whatever they want. And Jefferson was stunned that Adams would stoop so low, so he could only retort with more bad talk about Adams. Now, keep in mind, these are founding fathers that are acting like 8th graders, especially when John Adams would say things like, Jefferson has prostitutes shipped in from overseas to have sex with them all the time. And Jefferson's response would have to be to go to newspapers to tell them that Adams was actually a hermaphrodite with both male and female sex organs. And they published this. Jefferson's words were actually on record for saying this. At this point, Adams thought, well, fine, if he's playing dirty, let's play. Because Adams then spread the word that Thomas Jefferson was actually dead. No point in voting for a dead man for president, right? I mean, really, the incumbent president's campaign strategy was, vote for me, I'm alive. Good call. So Jefferson found different ways to get him back, and he called upon a hatchet man, James Callender, to publish newspaper articles about Adams, that he wants to go to war with France. Yes, this was all published. And yes, Jefferson won, but Adams thought before he left that he would appoint into offices below him a lot of people who vehemently opposed anything Jefferson stands for. Which might be a proper statement of how politicians can get things done while dealing with people with opposing views, but really, who am I to judge? So, near the end of Jefferson's first term as president, his daughter died. Abigail Adams, John's wife, felt bad, even though they had their differences, so she wrote a sympathy letter to Thomas Jefferson. And Jefferson responded, saying, that was very kind of you. Thank you. But while I have you here, John tried to ruin my presidency, and I truly only feel bad will toward you. Jefferson probably wanted to use a lot of expletives, but I don't have the original letter, so I can't actually confirm his true words. Keep in mind, that maturity level of these two founding fathers, who were consecutive presidents of the United States. So Abigail said to John, that's it. Thomas Jefferson is dead to us. And decades went by, them not speaking to each other, until another founding father, Benjamin Rush, told Adams to let it pass. We shared those glorious 1776 days together. Those starting the country times were magical. So John Adams fondly reflected on these times with Tommy Jeff and decided to write a letter. Very general. Hey, we haven't talked in a while. How are you doing? I miss you. I hope that you're doing okay. Jefferson got this letter thinking of his once friend Johnny Ads, and he wrote a cordial letter back after 10 years. And they kept writing each other, and they realized that they had a lot more in common. By the end of their lives, they had exchanged 158 letters. These two were friends again. And by 1826, John Adams was on his deathbed, and his last words were, "Independence forever." They didn't know this, but they both died on the same day, July 4th, 1826, the 50-year anniversary of them signing the Declaration of Independence, which seems like a perfect ending for a tumultuous and insanely groundbreaking friendship. That really is insane. Sorry, I shouldn't be commenting on the poem so quickly after I finish reading it, but that's really an insane notion if you think about it for a second, right? Holy cow. Well, I'll have to change the subject up a little bit. Oh, and if you wanted to know, by the way, the slang for the names for each other is actually from past issues of episodes of Drunk History, which is now no longer in existence, which is very sad. I like that show. It's fun to hear people drunk telling history. Anyway, but this, I'm going to change the subjects here and come up with other poetry for you guys, because I have to read a little bit more before enough people would show up for the open mic. And, well, since there is no open mic, I might actually watch this crazy quarantine debate later this evening. But this poem is called Eat Your Words, and it was written on Edible Book Day, which is April 1st. With the family sick and in bed yesterday, I thought about edible book festivals that I was at home missing out on. With my library of books, both made and real, I wondered if paper was literally edible. And then saw how people celebrated this day by not actually eating books, but by making facsimiles of books, like making pastries where the icing makes food look like a book. I had no intention, all alone, to bake a cake to fashion into a book to eat, so I looked for another way to eat my words, and added alphabet soup noodles to my egg drop soup. And mixing letters and numbers with strands of egg whites really made for a messy read, but I still had enough leftover yummy word soup to enjoy today and maybe tomorrow. I might not have literally made a book, but my integration of text into my soup was my deconstructed literary inspiration. They tell you to not play with your food, but April 1st is a day that I could play with my letters within my food that form the words that describe our lives. And hey, that's a reason to celebrate too. Okay. I don't know how many more am I gonna get? This book page. Aha. This one I can sing for you too. This one is called Zones of Comfort and Taking a Chance. And it was written on National Take a Chance Day, which is April 23rd. Honey, I'm still free. Take a chance on me. I recently heard that Mark Twain said, 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did. Once, after I had money saved and sufficiently hated my job, I quit and traveled around the country by car, driving 8 hours a day to visit old friends in new cities, so I could otherwise try to get out of my comfort zone. Months later, I got the chance to fly an airplane, and I thought, hey, I've never done that before, so why not? And off I went. Later, I looked at the ravage of time and wondered what I was waiting for. So when I had talked about jumping, so I just went to Longmont so I could have a good view of the Tetons when I jumped from 17,000 feet above sea level from an airplane. I was never scared, but I'd be fine, I thought, and what's the point of fear anyway? More recently, while snorkeling, I saw in the distance what looked like a white-tipped shark sleeping along the bottom of the ocean. I had no scuba gear, but I wasn't that deep where I was. I promised I wouldn't get too close, and as I swam, I saw at least 24, maybe 30 of these sharks all sleeping peacefully in a perfect row. In fact, today was my scheduled day to purchase an electric hybrid American car. And come to think of it, I heard about a man who wore a stainless steel woven metal suit where he could literally conduct 200,000 volts from a Tesla coil to what looked like right through him. There's a video of this man in his metal suit conducting electricity from this Tesla coil in his outstretched arms, along with his body. And although this wooden stool that he stood on, he was there, it finally then jumped into the ground. After this, I keep thinking that there's a certain electricity in the air. And at the same time, I have to wonder if we were the same size and I could fit in that suit and move some electricity myself. Because maybe it's true. Maybe you'll be disappointed by the things you didn't do versus the things you do. So, honey, I'm still free. Take a chance. Like me. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I have to end this on a happier note for the ending of this book reading for you. Let me flip the panel. Let me close it up for you before I go to this last one-page thing. This is from the Down in the Dirt, February to April 2010 issue collection book, Foundations. And I'm reading stuff from one of the last sections of the book. And I hope you're enjoying yourself. And I hope you enjoy this last poem I'm going to share with you in this reading. This was written on Tangible Karma Day, this last poem, which actually falls on the first Saturday in April. And it's called Karma and Lollipops. When we were about to check out of our hotel this weekend, a woman at the registry stopped us, handed us two embossed bunny lollipops, and said, "Happy Easter." Even though Easter was weeks away, I said thank you and went on for their breakfast. Well, he got coffee and I got orange juice and yogurt. He then pointed out the mom seated with her two little boys eating. I looked at the lollipops still in my hand, walked over to them and asked if it was okay to give her boys these two lollipops. She smiled and said yes to these plastic wrap lollipops, but since I thought breakfast might not be the best time for candy, I gave the mother the lollipops and then got the last of my food with my luggage before we got on the road again. People get all high and mighty with their phrases, "Do unto others as you would have others do unto you," "You reap what you sow," "What goes around comes around," or even "paying it forward." But these random acts of kindness, this tangible karma, all pretty much amounts to the same basic truth. What you do, the energy you put into the world will come back to you. The added bonus for tangible karma is that while doing good for someone else, it makes you feel good too. But if karma is true and the good things come to you because of the good you do, then these insignificant acts of kindness are tangible proof, evidence for exactly what you can do. Because the nice thing with karma is that all that goodness will always come back to you. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed that installment from a relatively recent book release reading from Scares Publications, as I would often start open mics for the Cafe Gallery, reunited now in this 2020 book reading series. I hope everyone is remaining safe. I hope everyone is remaining poetically inclined, and if you are ever feeling like you're at the end of your rope because you're stuck and you don't know what to do because you're trapped and all alone still, because we have to quarantine ourselves still. Though I hear Chicago's letting some things start to open up again. Double plus good. But if you're feeling like you just can't take this isolation anymore, just remember that you are loved. You are. And Stay safe, and thank you all for listening. Thank you very much. Thank you.